So, the Easter story from the Gospel of John. We all feel like we know it, right? The empty tomb, Mary crying, Jesus showing up to his disciples. It's one of the most famous stories on the planet. But what if I told you there's a whole other layer to it? A kind of literary code that unlocks a much, much bigger idea. Okay, let's dive in. For the next few minutes, we're going to treat this chapter like a literary investigation. And here's the central question. What if the little details we usually skim right over, a case of mistaken identity in a garden, a really weird action in a locked room, what if those are actually the most important clues the author left for us? Because the argument here is that the author, John, isn't just a reporter jotting down notes on a miracle. No, he's a master craftsman. He's weaving this profound theological argument, using these subtle hat tips to the Hebrew Bible to show that the resurrection isn't just an event, it's the beginning of a whole new creation. So our first clue comes from Mary Magdalene. Just picture it. She's in the garden, by the tomb, totally heartbroken. And through her tears, she sees this figure she doesn't recognize. The text tells us she supposed him to be the gardener. Now, almost all of us read that and think, okay, simple mistake. But what if it's not a mistake at all? So you basically have two ways to look at this. Was Mary just, overcome with grief and couldn't see straight? Or is the author planting a massive theological clue right in plain sight? Well, this deep dive argues it's absolutely the second one, and that this one word, gardener, is the key that unlocks this entire scene.
To really get why, we have to understand what a gardener meant in the ancient world. And you gotta forget about lawnmowers and flower beds. This was a title with some serious royal weight to it.
Let's get the context here. In the ancient Near East, a garden wasn't just a place to grow some food. It was a powerful symbol. It was like a little slice of heaven on earth, a place of divine order, life, abundance, and, most importantly, it was seen as an extension of a king's power, his authority made visible. In this gardener king idea, it's a thread that runs all through the Hebrew Bible. It starts with Adam, who's basically appointed as the first royal gardener of Eden. The theme pops up again with Israel's kings, who ruled from cities with royal gardens, and it's all building toward this promise of a Messiah, a king who is supposed to restore the world to a state just like Eden. Now, John even gives us a little vocabulary clue. The Greek word he uses for garden in the story is kapos. The more common word for an Eden-like paradise was paradisos. But kapos, especially when you look at the Greek translation of the Old Testament, was the word often reserved for a royal garden. That choice of words is 100% intentional. So here's the point. By having Mary mistake Jesus for the gardener, John is making an enormous claim. He's saying Jesus is the ultimate royal gardener. He's the new Adam, the true king, standing in his reclaimed royal garden, about to kickstart a new creation. Mary might not have known what she was saying, but John, the author, he knew exactly what he was doing. Okay, you ready for clue number 2? This one comes a little later in the chapter. Jesus appears to his disciples, who are, by the way, totally terrified and hiding in a locked room. And then he does something very specific and kind of strange. The text says he breathed on them. And again, just like with the gardener, this is a detail that's so easy to just read past, but it is packed with an incredible amount of meaning. Check this out. The specific Greek verb John uses for breathed on, it's emphorsoo, and it appears exactly one time in the entire New Testament. Right here. When an author uses a word that's that rare, it's like a giant flashing neon sign. He's telling us, hey, you need to go look up where else this word is used. And here it is. In the Greek Old Testament, emphousio shows up in some of the most powerful moments of divine creation you can find. It's the exact verb used when God breathes life into Adam in Genesis. And it's the verb used in the famous story from Ezekiel 37, when God's breath enters the valley of dry bones and brings the entire nation of Israel back to life. And that Ezekiel story is really key. We often read it today as being about individual people rising from the dead at the end of time. But in its original context, God says explicitly that the bones represent the whole house of Israel. The vision is about God bringing his people, his politically dead nation, back to life from exile. So by using this incredibly rare verb, John is brilliantly connecting Jesus' action to both creation and restoration. Jesus breathing on his disciples is being presented as a new Genesis moment, a brand new creation. And at the same time, it's the fulfillment of Ezekiel's prophecy, the beginning of Israel's long-awaited restoration. So when you put these two clues together, the royal gardener and the life-giving breath, this absolutely stunning picture starts to emerge of what John believes is happening in the resurrection. These ideas aren't separate things. They are all interlocking parts of one massive theological claim. Jesus is the new Adam, the true royal gardener. He is the life giver who is restoring his people, Israel, and kicking off a brand new creation. It all comes down to this single, powerful idea. The royal gardener has returned to breathe new life into his creation. This is the big idea that John has been so carefully building towards through all those little, easy-to-miss details. So why does all this matter? What's the big takeaway? Well, reading the story this way changes everything. It shows that the resurrection isn't just a miracle for one person, it's a cosmic event that starts the whole world over again. It gives us this incredible window into how deeply the first Christians read their own scriptures to figure out who Jesus was and what he had done. And it leaves us with this really fascinating final question. If this much meaning can be layered into just a few words we usually ignore, well, what other ancient stories are out there, just hiding a deeper code waiting for us to find the right clues?